Well, it struck me that the first two videos I made don't really have anything specific to do with the first reading. They're really kind of background for some ideas about what logic is and how to approach deductive logic and some advice about that. I think those should be helpful. I figured I should make at least one video that more directly pertains to the actual reading. This one has to do with the Chapter 1, proof. Okay. Probably don't have a lot to say about proof. Although, of course, it is dealt with in this chapter. It seems to me that the real subject of this first chapter is the idea of consistency. I guess there's certain rules. There's a connection with the subject of proof, because it looks like the kind of proofs that she's talking about, reductio ad absurdum and things like that, really have to do with proving things on the basis of consistency, or using consistency as a standard by which to prove things. But what do we mean by consistency, logical consistency? You can say, especially in deductive logic, what can we say this? Two statements are consistent I would say that, as a way of thinking of logical consistency. That is, two statements are consistent if both can be true at the same time. So, for instance, I would say that these two statements are logically consistent. Remember, we're not talking about the truth here of the statements. We're talking about whether they can be both true at the same time. That is, if Obama is president, can it still be that the Phillies stink? And since they really have no relevance to each other, they only pertain to each other, certainly they can. So I would say, consistency, logical consistency, is when statements are compatible with each other in terms of, if one is true, can the other be true as well, or can the others be true as well? Maybe more interesting is inconsistency, or what does it mean for statements to be inconsistent? Well, here we go. I guess the most obvious form of inconsistency is between a statement and its negation. Obama is president, Obama is not president. Those statements are inconsistent. They cannot both be true at the same time. Now, of course, they can be true at different times. Obama as president is true now. It wasn't true in 2007, and it won't be true after 2014, when his second term is up. So obviously a statement and its negation are inconsistent. As we'll see, let's see something like this. All dogs like cake. Some dogs don't like cake. That is, if all dogs like cake, then every dog likes cake. So if it's true that some dogs don't like cake, it can't be true that all dogs like cake. So consistency is really intuitively kind of, I don't know, is it obvious? I don't know. It's worth thinking about, even if it is obvious. This is a philosophy class, so dwelling on the obvious is not a sin. Thinking about things that we take for granted, even if we don't feel like they need to be changed, is what philosophy is kind of all about. So consistency, I think, is kind of intuitively easy to grasp, and inconsistency is easy to grasp. Now, I think that, what is the connection here with proof then? I mean, what is she talking about proof? Well, to prove that something is correct, or say to prove that a statement is true. Any statement at all. I can't think of one right now, but any statement at all. Think of any statement. To prove that the statement is true, there's all sorts of ways to prove a statement is true, but one way you can prove a statement true is to prove that its it's called its negation, is false. That is, the idea is that if, well, say that we have a statement like, what is the negation of that? It is actually now, if I can prove that it's false that not all mailboxes in the U.S. are blue, I have proved that all mailboxes in the U.S. are blue. That, again, you know, kind of obvious, kind of simple, kind of intuitively, yeah, so what? And, you know, that's maybe true. But we really think about it, what are we relying on when we make that statement? That is, if we prove that the negation of a statement is false, how does that prove that the statement itself is true? Well, you know, I'm going to mention these things because they are a prominent part of this first chapter, but they are really difficult. There's two principles that we seem to be relying on when we talk about consistency. The first is the principle of excluded middle. Oops. And the second is the principle of non-contradiction. Now, these are sort of devilishly difficult to distinguish, and I don't know, you know, how much we can really do that through what's in the text here. But the principle of excluded middle seems to be that something like this. Something either has a property or it does not. That is, something is either a certain way or it is not. How does she put it? This is on page 30. The law of the excluded middle requires that a thing must either possess a given attribute or must not possess it. So we could either say Jim is big. Well, something better than Jim is American, or he is not American. What does that mean? Well, he's either American or he's not American, but it's either one or the other. Jim is either an American or he is not an American. There's no middle choice there. So something either has a property, in this case Jim, has the property of being American, or he doesn't have the property of being American, doesn't have the characteristic of being American. Let's take a look at the principle of non-contradiction. How does she put it? The law of non-contradiction, or she calls it the law of non-contradiction. It's on page 32. Actually, I can't see. Yeah, 32. The law of non-contradiction requires that a thing cannot both be and not be at the same time. So let's say this. Jim is American and he is not American. Cannot be. Those things cannot both be true at the same time. That is, Jim cannot be both American and not American. Let's do the square. Actually, see, now I'm getting mixed up because now I'm getting back to the principle of excluded middle. we say a square is a rectilineal figure. The principle of non-contradiction, or the law of non-contradiction, tells us that of these two statements, only one can be true. That is, a thing cannot both be, that is, the square can't both be a rectilineal figure and not be, that is, not a rectilineal figure at the same time. So these are, I don't know how helpful that is, but at least we got the discussion going on these principles. The difference between the principle of excluded middle, that is, either something has a property or it does not. There's no middle or third choice. And the principle of non-contradiction, that is, that a statement and its contradiction or a statement and its negation cannot both be true at the same time. Those are like the base principles, the baseline foundation for consistency.